The Israelites stood at the edge of the Promised Land, their hearts gripped by fear. The report of giants and fortified cities overwhelmed their faith. Moses and Aaron pleaded for trust in God's promise, but the people's cries of rebellion echoed through the camp. Joshua and Caleb, holding clusters of grapes from Canaan, stood alone as voices of courage. Yet the Lord's judgment was clear. For 40 years, 1 year for each day the land was explored. You will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to have me against you. Numbers 14:34. The sun set on their shattered dreams as the wilderness awaited. With heavy hearts, the Israelites turned their backs on Canaan, condemned to wander the barren wilderness. The Ark of the Covenant led the way, a constant reminder of God's presence and His judgment. The scorching sun beat down on their tents as they moved aimlessly, their livestock trudging through the sand. Days blurred into months, then years. The Promised Land faded into a distant memory, replaced by the endless expanse of desert. Yet even in punishment, God's faithfulness lingered like the morning dew, a silent promise that He would not abandon them. 40 years passed, and the desert became a graveyard for the generation that had doubted God. Their children, now grown, listened to Moses recount the laws of the Lord by the firelight. The old ways of fear and rebellion were buried with their parents, replaced by a quiet determination. The young ones had known only the wilderness, yet their hearts were being prepared for a promise they had never seen. Moses' voice, weathered by time, carried the weight of legacy. The Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love Him with all your heart and soul. Deuteronomy 13:3. In the wilderness, God was their provider and their tester. Manna fell like dew each morning, a daily reminder of His provision. Yet, when serpents bit the people, Moses lifted a bronze serpent on a pole, foreshadowing the cross. Look to it and live. Numbers 21:9. Water gushed from rocks, and clothes never wore out. Every trial was a lesson in dependence. Every miracle a glimpse of grace. The wilderness was not just punishment, it was preparation. The Lord was sculpting a people who would choose faith over fear, even when the giants still loomed ahead. At last, the 40 years ended. A new generation stood at the banks of the Jordan, their eyes fixed on Canaan. Joshua, now their leader, raised his staff with the same courage he'd shown decades before. The Israelites were no longer slaves, nor were they wanderers. They were warriors, ready to claim what God had promised. The wilderness had stripped away their fear, leaving only faith. As the waters of the Jordan parted, they crossed into the land flowing with milk and honey. Proving this truth, the wilderness was never the end. It was the path to the promise.